Hello and welcome to Millennium News Hour. I am Tanzeeba Nauri. In today's bulletin, we will present top and trending news from across the nation and the world. Let's begin with the headlines of the day. Conservative justices question student loan forgiveness plan. Biden sketching dire picture of GOP desire to cut spending. Blinken warns Central Asia of dangers from war in Ukraine. Biden to visit Selma, Alabama for voting rights anniversary. From battered California to New England, snow bookends US. McClinton voted Philadelphia Speaker, first black woman to win post. US officials make case for renewing visa surveillance powers. Tom Sizemore's family deciding end of life matters. TikTok banned on all Canadian government mobile devices. Italy says migrants paid €8,000 each for voyage of death. Drones fly deep inside Russia, Putin orders border tightened. UK's Sunak tries to win over skeptics to his Brexit deal. China says it's been open and transparent on COVID origins. Pakistani court orders arrest of former Premier Imran Khan. Hong Kong to lift COVID-19 mask mandate on Wednesday. Suspected schoolgirl poisoning attacks rattle a shaken Iran. North Korea's Kim calls for unity to boost grain production. Israel says motorist killed in West Bank held US citizenship. Fan who insulted Vinicius said to be fined, banned from games. And Novak Djokovic breaks record for most weeks ranked number 1. Now news in detail. The Supreme Court has begun hearing arguments in a partisan legal fight over President Joe Biden's plan to wipe away or reduce student loans held by millions of Americans. The High Court, with its 6-3 conservative majority, heard arguments on Tuesday in 2 challenges to the plan, which has so far been blocked by Republican-appointed judges on lower courts. Arguments were scheduled to last 2 hours but were likely to go much longer. The public can listen in on the AP YouTube channel or on the court's website. Early in arguments, several conservative justices grilled the Biden administration's top Supreme Court lawyer, Elizabeth Prelogar, and suggested that the administration had exceeded its authority with the program. Chief Justice John Roberts pointed to the wide impact and expense of the program, which is estimated to cost $400 billion over 30 years. The Biden administration says that 26 million people have applied to have up to 20,000 in federal student loans forgiven under the plan. I am confident the legal authority to carry that plan is there, Biden said on Monday at an event to mark Black History Month. The president, who once doubted his own authority to broadly cancel student aid, first announced the program in August. Legal challenges quickly followed. President Joe Biden is aiming to use the lead-up to the release of his proposed budget next week to sketch a dire picture of what could happen to U.S. healthcare if congressional Republicans had their way with federal spending. The Democratic president traveled to Virginia Beach, Virginia on Tuesday to discuss potential GOP efforts to cut spending on healthcare, part of a broader presidential push this week to draw a strong contrast between his administration's priorities and those of Republicans. The bottom line is this: congressional Republicans have committed themselves to very deep cuts to programs that tens of millions of Americans count on. Aviva Arondine, deputy director of the National Economic Council, said of Biden's planned remarks at a recreation center. And the president believes that they owe the American people transparency about what that will mean, and if they won't provide it, he will. Biden is expected to build on that message in a meeting with House Democrats in Baltimore on Wednesday and before Senate Democrats on Thursday. The effort to highlight major differences with Republicans comes as Biden is expected to launch a re-election campaign this spring. The Biden administration on Tuesday pledged to support the independence of the 5 Central Asian nations in a not-so-subtle warning to the former Soviet states that Russia's value as a partner has been badly compromised by its year-old war against Ukraine. In Kazakhstan, for a series of meetings with top Central Asian diplomats, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken said no country, particularly those that have traditionally been in Moscow's orbit, can afford to ignore the threats posed by Russian aggression to not only their territory but to the international rules-based order and the global economy. In all of his discussions, Blinken stressed the importance of respect for sovereignty, territorial integrity, and independence. The Central Asian states have hewed to a stated position of neutrality on Ukraine, neither supporting Russia's invasion nor US and Western condemnations of the war. President Joe Biden will travel to Alabama on Sunday to mark the 58th anniversary of a landmark event of the civil rights movement. Biden will speak in Selma for the annual remembrance of Bloody Sunday, the day in 1965 that white police beat black civil rights marchers as they attempted to cross the city's Edmund Pettus Bridge. The White House announced the visit on Tuesday. The visit comes as the city that served as a crucible of the civil rights movement is fighting to recover from a January tornado. The EF2 twister, with winds of 130 mph, cut a wide swath and ripped through the city, destroying and severely damaging hundreds of homes. Biden has twice visited Selma for the annual voting rights commemoration. 3 years ago, during the 2020 election, he spoke at the city's historic Brown Chapel AME Church hours after strong support from black voters in South Carolina lifted Biden to his first primary victory. He also visited the city as vice president in 2013. In both stops, Biden warned of erosions to the protections for voting rights owned in the city decades ago. Beleaguered Californians got hit again Tuesday as a new winter storm moved into the already drenched and snow-plastered state, with blizzard warnings blanketing the Sierra Nevada and forecasters warning residents that any travel was dangerous. Bookending the country, a winter storm in the northeast closed or delayed the opening for hundreds of schools as the most significant snowfall of what has been a mild winter hit overnight, and Michigan again fought a battle with ice after a new storm that hit Monday left thousands of customers without power in the central part of the state. To the southeast, around Detroit, some customers still lacked power for a sixth day after a previous ice storm. Philadelphia State Representative Joanna McClinton on Tuesday became the first woman to serve as Speaker of the Pennsylvania House, ascending to the chamber's top position on the strength of a fresh one-vote Democratic majority. The leadership reshuffling came nearly 2 months after Representative Mark Rosie, a Berks County Democrat, became the surprise choice for Speaker. Democrats flipped a net of 12 seats in November to retake majority control after more than a decade, but their margin did not become effective until their candidates won 3 special elections earlier this month. Rosie had been serving as a Speaker since his surprise election on January 3rd and said Tuesday he was willingly stepping aside but would remain a House member. He called McClinton one of the most intelligent and compassionate women I have met in politics. In nominating her, Representative Malcolm Kenyatta of Philadelphia noted McClinton is also the second African American to serve as Speaker, after the late Speaker Leroy Irvis. The vote was 120-99, reflecting 2 absences. Biden administration officials urged Congress on Tuesday to renew a surveillance program the government has long seen as vital in protecting national security, but whose future is uncertain because of scrutiny from an unusual alignment of civil liberties advocates and some Republicans. The program, which is under the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, or FISA, grants American spy agencies sweeping powers to surveil and examine communications of foreigners located outside the United States. It's set to expire at year's end unless Congress agrees to renew it. Officials in the Democratic administration bracing for a contentious debate on Capitol Hill about reauthorizing the program sought on Tuesday to make a public case about the value of the statutory authorities that are at risk of expiring. They asserted that the program in recent years has yielded valuable insight into ransomware attacks on critical infrastructure, helped disrupt potential acts of terror and efforts to recruit spies, and contributed to the killing of Al-Qaeda leader Ayman al-Zawahiri in a drone strike last August. More than a week after Tom Sizemore suffered a brain aneurysm, a representative says the actor's family is now deciding end-of-life matters. Today, doctors informed his family that there is no further hope and have recommended end-of-life decision. Sizemore's manager Charles Lego said in a statement issued Monday night. Lego said another statement would be issued Wednesday. Sizemore collapsed early February 18 at his home in Los Angeles and has been hospitalized since, remaining in critical condition, in a coma, and in intensive care. The brain aneurysm was the result of a stroke, Lego's statement said. Sizemore has acted in films like Saving Private Ryan, Heat, and Black Hawk Down. While he received accolades for his acting, his career foundered amid a litany of drug abuse arrests and run-ins with law enforcement, including domestic violence and abuse allegations. In 2003, he was convicted of domestic violence charges against his ex-girlfriend, former Hollywood Madam Heidi Fleiss. Now it's time for global updates. Canada announced Monday it is banning TikTok from all government-issued mobile devices, reflecting widening worries from Western officials over the Chinese-owned video-sharing app. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau said it might be a first step to further action or that it might be it. I suspect that as government takes the significant step of telling all federal employees that they can no longer use TikTok on their work phones, many Canadians from business to private individuals will reflect on the security of their own data and perhaps make choices, Trudeau said. I'm always a fan of giving Canadians the information for them to make the right decisions for them, he added. The European Union's executive branch said last week it has temporarily banned TikTok from phones used by employees as a cybersecurity measure. The EU's action follows similar moves in the US, where more than half of the states and Congress have banned TikTok from official government devices. Rescue teams pulled more bodies from the sea on Tuesday, bringing the death toll from Italy's latest migration tragedy to 65, as prosecutors identified suspected smugglers who allegedly charged €8,000 for each person making the voyage of death from Turkey to Italy. Authorities delayed a planned viewing of the coffins to allow more time for identification of the bodies, as desperate relatives and friends arrived in the Calabrian city of Croton in hope of finding their loved ones, some of whom hailed from Afghanistan. At least 65 people, including 14 minors, died when their overcrowded wooden boat slammed into shoals 100 meters off the shore of Coutro and broke apart early Sunday in rough seas. 80 people survived, but many more are feared dead since survivors indicated the boat had carried about 170 people when it set off last week from Izmir, Turkey. Aid groups at the scene have said many of the passengers hailed from Afghanistan, including entire families, as well as from Pakistan, Syria, and Iraq. Rescue teams pulled 2 bodies from the sea on Tuesday, bringing the toll to 65, police said. Premier Giorgia Meloni sent a letter to European leaders demanding quick action on the continent's long-standing migration problem, insisting that migrants must be stopped from risking their lives on dangerous sea crossings. Russian President Vladimir Putin ordered the border with Ukraine tightened Tuesday after several drones attacked inside Russian territory, including one that crashed just 100 kilometers from Moscow in an alarming development for Russian defenses. The drones caused no injuries but raised questions about the Kremlin's security more than a year after Russia's full-scale invasion of its neighbor. Moscow blamed Kiev for the attacks. Ukrainian officials did not immediately claim responsibility, but they similarly avoided directly acknowledging responsibility for past strikes and sabotage while emphasizing Ukraine's right to hit any target in Russia. Although Putin did not refer to any specific attacks in his speech in the Russian capital, his comments came hours after the drones targeted several areas in southern and western Russia. Authorities closed the airspace over St. Petersburg in response to what some reports said was a drone. UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak travelled to Belfast on Tuesday to sell his landmark agreement with the European Union to its toughest audience. Unionist politicians who fear post-Brexit trade rules are weakening Northern Ireland's place in the United Kingdom. The UK and the 27-nation EU announced Monday that they had struck a deal to resolve a dispute over Northern Ireland trade that has vexed relations since the UK left the bloc in 2020. The agreement will ease customs checks and other hurdles for goods moving to Northern Ireland from the rest of the UK that were imposed after Brexit to maintain an open border between the North and its EU neighbour, the Republic of Ireland. The deal, dubbed the Windsor Framework, was hailed by London and Brussels as a breakthrough, but Northern Ireland's British Unionist politicians have yet to give it their blessing. Their support is key to restoring Northern Ireland's semi-autonomous government, which has been toppled by the trade feud, leaving 1.9 million people without a functioning administration. Sunak told the BBC the deal was a huge step forward for the people of Northern Ireland, and he was confident politicians there would support it. China on Tuesday said it has been open and transparent in the search for the origins of COVID-19 after questions about how the pandemic began received new attention. Most recently, the US Department of Energy assessed with low confidence that the pandemic that was first detected in the central Chinese city of Wuhan in late 2019 began with a leak of a virus from a lab. The report hasn't been made public. China had shared the most data and research results on virus tracing and made important contributions to global virus tracing research. Foreign Ministry spokesperson Mao Ning-mao told reporters at a daily briefing. Politicizing the issue of virus tracing will not smear China but will only damage the US's own credibility, Mao said, in response to complaints from US officials and members of Congress that China has not been entirely cooperative. Her comments came amid continuing questions about how the virus that has killed more than 6.8 million people worldwide first emerged. A Pakistani court on Tuesday issued an arrest warrant for former Prime Minister Imran Khan as the cricket star turned politician called on his supporters to keep up protests amid a roiling political crisis. The court in the capital Islamabad that ordered the former premier's arrest said Khan had escaped a hearing on charges of selling state gifts and concealing his assets. Judge Jafar Iqbal's order came on a day of political drama in Pakistan, as three other courts on Tuesday ruled Khan was immune from arrest on separate charges relating to allegations of terrorism, attempted murder against a rival politician, and graft. Tight security and thousands of supporters greeted Imran Khan as he made his first appearance in Islamabad since being shot in the leg during a protest rally in November. One of Khan's supporters was killed and a dozen others were wounded in the attack, which drew nationwide condemnation. Hong Kong will lift its mask mandate on Wednesday, ending the city's last major restriction imposed during the COVID-19 pandemic. The city's chief executive, John Lee, said masks will no longer be required both outdoors and indoors, including on public transit, but some high-risk areas, including hospitals and elderly homes, can still require their use. Lee's announcement at a news briefing Tuesday came a day after neighboring Macau eased its mask rule and brings the financial hub closer to life in pre-pandemic days. Lee said he made the decision because the city did not see a rebound in infections and has built an immunity barrier. Over the past 3 months, hundreds of young girls attending different schools in Iran have become overpowered by what are believed to be noxious fumes wafting into their classrooms, with some ending up weakened on hospital beds. Officials in Iran's theocracy initially dismissed these incidents, but now describe them as intentional attacks involving some 30 schools identified in local media reports, with some speculating they could be aimed at trying to close schools for girls in this country of over 80 million people. The reported attacks come at a sensitive time for Iran, which already has faced months of protests after the September death of Mahsa Amini following her arrest by the country's morality police. The authorities have not named suspects, but the attacks have raised fears that other girls could be poisoned, apparently just for seeking an education, something that's never been challenged before in the over 40 years since the 1979 Islamic Revolution. Iran itself also has been calling on the Taliban in neighboring Afghanistan to have girls and women return to school. North Korean ruler Kim Jong-un called for stronger public solidarity behind his leadership to increase the country's grain production significantly, state media reported Tuesday, amid outside worries about the country's worsened food insecurity. Foreign experts say North Korea is experiencing a serious shortfall of food in the aftermath of COVID-19 border restrictions and a reported push for greater state control over grain supply. The experts say they have seen no signs of mass deaths or famine due to the shortfall. During a ruling Workers' Party meeting on Monday, Kim expressed his government's determination to bring about a revolutionary turn in the agricultural production without fail, according to the official Korean Central News Agency. Nothing is impossible as long as the strong leadership system is established in the whole party and there is the united might of all the people, Kim was quoted as saying. KCNA didn't elaborate on whether Kim presented any specific steps to boost grain production. Israeli authorities said Tuesday that a motorist shot to death by a suspected Palestinian gunman in the occupied West Bank held both American and Israeli citizenship. It was the latest in a bloody string of violent attacks roiling the region. The government identified the slain man as Ilan Gennels, who is 27 years old, of West Hartford, Connecticut. A friend told local media he had been visiting Israel for a wedding and driving on a highway near the Dead Sea when he was shot. The attackers remained at large Tuesday. Gennels was the sole fatality of what the army said was a multi-site shooting spree a day earlier. The army said the attackers opened fire at an Israeli car near the Palestinian city of Jericho, hitting Gennels. The assailants, traveling in one vehicle, then drove further and fired again, the army said. The attackers set their own vehicle afire and fled, setting off a manhunt. Gennels died later at Hadassah Medical Center, the hospital said. He is to be buried Wednesday in the Israeli central city of Ra'anana. Israeli President Isaac Herzog extended condolences to Gennels' family. Now it's time for business news. Today's New York stock close price is 15,492.93. The NYSE composite is increased by 28.47 points or 0.18%. Tokyo stock close price is 27,445.56. The Nikkei 225 index is increased by 21.60 points or 0.08%. Shanghai stock close price is 3,279.6053. The Shanghai Composite Index is increased by 21.57 points or 0.66%. Hong Kong stock close price is 19,785.94. The Hang Seng Index is decreased by 157.57 points or 0.79%. Bombay stock close price is 58,962.12. The Sensex index is decreased by 326.23 points or 0.55%. Let's have a look on today's sports stories. Spain's Anti-Violence Commission proposed a fine of €4,000 and a 12-month ban from stadiums on Tuesday for the fan who racially insulted Vinicius Jr. in a Spanish league match. The punishment is expected to be imposed by authorities against the fan who is accused of calling the Real Madrid forward a monkey during a game at Mallorca on February 5. The fan, reportedly a 20-year-old Mallorca season ticket holder, may also face criminal charges. He was identified by club security officials and is also believed to have insulted Villarreal player Samu Chukwueze in another match. Both Vinicius and Chukwueze are black. Vinicius was also insulted after the Mallorca match when he stopped to pose for photos and sign autographs for fans. The Brazilian has been subjected to insults since he came to play in Spain 5 years ago, though very little has been done to punish fans. Novak Djokovic broke the record for the most time spent at number 1 in the professional tennis rankings by a man or woman. beginning his 378th week in the ATP's top spot on Monday to surpass Steffi Graf's 377, leading the WTA. He already held the men's mark, eclipsing Roger Federer's old ATP standard of 310 weeks in March 2021. I am flattered, obviously, extremely proud and happy for this achievement, Djokovic said in a video posted on social media, in which he referred to Graf as one of the greatest, most legendary tennis players. After Djokovic and Graf on the all-time #1 weeks list are Martina Navratilova with 332 and Serena Williams with 319, followed by Federer. The computerized rankings began in the 1970s. Djokovic has finished 7 years atop the ATP, another men's record. The 35-year-old from Serbia returned to #1 this time by winning the Australian Open in January, jumping up from #5 to overtake Carlos Alcaraz. That title was Djokovic's 22nd at a Grand Slam tournament, equaling Rafael Nadal for the most by a man in tennis history. Djokovic is 12-0 so far in 2023, heading into this week's tournament in Dubai. Let's have a look on today's weather forecast. That's all in today's news. Keep watching Millennium News 24 for latest update. Millennium TV USA and Millennium News 24 network is transmitted and available to be watched free for all at TVs such as Sony, Samsung, LG, Roku TV, Amazon TV and Apple TV. And also in all European countries and Australia, available with the Sky Network, Worldwide Jago TV, Radiant IPTV, Worldwide Jago BD Network and Horizon Satellite globally. Stay connected with us for all types of informative and entertainment program. Thank you.